There is a silence that follows loss unlike any other silence we experience in life. It is not the quiet of an early morning or the stillness of an empty room. It is a silence that feels alive, as though something has been removed from the fabric of reality itself. The world continues to move, people speak, clocks tick, cars pass, days turn into nights, yet for the one who grieves, everything feels strangely paused. You may find yourself listening almost without realizing it, as if waiting for a familiar voice to call your name again. But what you are truly listening for is not sound. It is connection. When someone we love dies, we are told to accept that they are gone. We are encouraged to find closure, to move forward, to return to normal life. Yet grief does not follow instructions, and love does not obey logic. Love is not something that can be placed neatly into the past. It lingers, it echoes, it reshapes itself in ways we do not expect. The bond you shared with that person was not built only of physical presence, but of memories, shared moments, emotions, and meaning. Those things do not disappear simply because the body is no longer here. In the early days of loss, many people feel disoriented. You may reach for the phone to call them before remembering. You may think you hear their footsteps in another room. You may sense their absence so strongly that it feels like a presence. These experiences are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are part of the mind and heart adjusting to a reality they are not yet ready to accept. Grief is not just sadness, it is a process of relearning the world. As time passes, something subtle begins to happen. The sharp pain of absence may soften into moments of reflection. You may notice small experiences that seem to carry unusual meaning, a sudden memory, an unexpected feeling of calm, or a sense that the relationship has not vanished but changed form. These moments are often quiet and deeply personal. They do not demand attention, they invite it. And if you allow yourself to notice them without fear or skepticism, they can bring comfort rather than confusion. We are accustomed to thinking of relationships as something that exists only through physical interaction. Yet the most important aspects of any relationship are invisible: love, understanding, influence, and the ways we are changed by one another. Death alters the form of a relationship, but it does not erase these invisible elements. In grief, we begin to discover that connection can continue in memory and values, in the way we carry forward what we learned from the one we lost. This realization does not come all at once. It unfolds slowly, often without announcement. At first there is only the silence. But within that silence, if we are patient, we may begin to sense that it is not empty after all. It is filled with everything that love has left behind, waiting not to hold us in the past, but to help us find our way forward. Not all dreams are alike. Some are fragments of the day, scattered images and thoughts that dissolve almost immediately upon waking. But there are other dreams that feel entirely different. They come with a clarity and calmness that set them apart, as though they belong to another category of experience altogether. In these dreams, the person who has died often appears not as they were during illness or in their final moments, but as they were in the fullness of their life, peaceful, composed, and somehow whole again. What makes these dreams so striking is not dramatic action or elaborate conversation. Often very little is said. There may be a simple exchange, a glance, or just the shared awareness of being together. Yet the emotional weight of the moment feels profound. There is no confusion, no chaos, no sense of randomness that characterizes ordinary dreaming. Instead, there is a feeling of understanding that seems to pass without words, as though communication is happening at a deeper level. People frequently describe waking from such dreams with a sense of calm rather than sorrow. Instead of reopening the wound of loss, the experience seems to soothe it. The dream does not feel like an attempt by the mind to recreate what is gone, but like an encounter that offers reassurance. For a brief time, the separation feels less absolute. The bond feels present again, not in a way that denies reality, but in a way that acknowledges that love has not vanished. From a psychological perspective, dreams are one of the ways the human mind processes profound change. When we lose someone, the relationship does not simply end inside us. The mind must find a way to reorganize memories, emotions, and attachments that were once part of daily life. Dreams allow this reorganization to take place gently, symbolically, and often in ways that bring healing. They create a space where grief and love can meet without the harsh boundaries imposed by waking life. Yet beyond explanation, there is also meaning. These dreams often occur at times when they are most needed, during periods of intense sadness, guilt, or unanswered questions. The appearance of the loved one may coincide with the dreamer reaching a point of emotional readiness to accept comfort. The experience can feel like permission to begin healing, as though something unresolved has been acknowledged. It is important not to cling too tightly to such dreams or to demand their return. They are not meant to replace reality or to become something we chase. Their value lies in what they offer in the moment: reassurance, connection, and sometimes a gentle shift in how we carry our grief. When received with openness, they can help transform pain into remembrance and longing into gratitude. In this way, dreams become not an escape from loss, but a bridge, a quiet passage through which the heart learns to accept that while life has changed, the love we carry continues to find expression, even in the silent language of sleep. There are moments in grief when memory behaves differently than we expect. Usually we think of remembering as something we choose to do. We look at a photograph, hear a familiar song, or intentionally reflect on the past. But there are other times when a memory arrives on its own, without invitation, and carries with it a strange sense of immediacy. It is not simply that you recall the person, it is that, for a brief instant, it feels as though they are close again, not physically, but emotionally present in a way that is difficult to explain. You might be engaged in the most ordinary activity when this happens. Perhaps you are preparing a meal, walking through a familiar place, or facing a decision that requires courage. Suddenly, a phrase they used to say comes clearly into your mind, almost as if spoken aloud. You remember the way they approached problems, the way they encouraged you, or even the small habits that once seemed insignificant. These memories do not feel like distant echoes. They feel active, relevant, and connected to the moment you are living now. Such experiences can surprise us because we often assume that memory belongs only to the past. Yet the people who shaped us did more than share time with us. They influenced how we think, how we respond to challenges, and how we understand ourselves. Their values, their guidance, and even their imperfections became woven into our own identity. When these sudden recollections arise, they are not merely images resurfacing. They are expressions of that internal inheritance. Grief, in this sense, becomes not only a process of letting go, but also a process of recognizing what remains. At first, we may resist these moments because they remind us of absence, but over time they can begin to feel like a form of quiet companionship. The advice they once gave continues to guide us. The kindness they showed encourages us to extend kindness to others. The strength they demonstrated becomes a resource we draw upon without realizing it. It is important to understand that this does not mean we are holding on in an unhealthy way. On the contrary, it reflects a natural and necessary adaptation. Human beings do not sever meaningful bonds, we transform them. The relationship shifts from something external to something internal. Instead of speaking to them, we carry their voice within us. Instead of seeking their approval, we act according to the values we learned from them. These moments of sudden remembrance often come precisely when we need reassurance or direction. They can help us feel less alone as we navigate life without the physical presence of the one we lost. Over time, what once caused pain may begin to offer strength. The memory is no longer only a reminder of loss, but also a reminder of connection that continues to shape who we are becoming. In this way, grief teaches us that love does not disappear with death. It becomes part of our character, our choices, and our way of moving through the world, an enduring presence carried not beside us, but within us. Grief does not move in a straight line. It comes in waves, sometimes gentle, sometimes overwhelming, often without warning. There may be days when you feel you are beginning to adjust, only to be suddenly overtaken by sadness again. In these moments, the absence can feel as sharp as it did in the beginning. Yet many people notice that, even in the depths of such sorrow, something unexpected can occur. Without any clear reason, a feeling of calm may appear. The intensity softens. Breathing becomes easier. It is as if, for a brief moment, the weight has been lifted. This kind of experience can be puzzling because nothing outward has changed. There has been no solution, no explanation, no external comfort offered. And yet inwardly there is a shift, a quiet reassurance that you are not entirely alone in your pain. These moments do not erase grief, nor are they meant to. Instead, they create small spaces within it, spaces where healing can begin to take root. Alongside this sense of unexpected peace, people often notice events that seem to carry a personal meaning. These are sometimes described as coincidences, but they feel different from ordinary chance. You may hear a song strongly associated with the person at a moment when you were thinking of them intensely. You might come across an object, a photograph, or even a familiar scent when you least expect it. At times you may encounter a place or situation tied to their memory on a day already filled with reflection. What gives these moments their significance is not the event itself, but the timing and the emotional response they evoke. They arrive precisely when comfort is needed, when doubt is strongest, or when the heart is searching for reassurance. Whether one interprets them as psychological connections, natural patterns, or something more mysterious, their effect is often the same. They remind us that the relationship we shared still has meaning in the present. Human beings are deeply attuned to meaning. In times of grief, we naturally look for ways to understand what has happened and how to continue living with the loss. These seemingly small occurrences can help us re-establish a sense of continuity. They suggest that while life has changed, it has not become empty. The love, memories, and influence of the person remain interwoven with our daily experiences. It is important not to become dependent on such moments or to interpret them as messages that must be deciphered. Their purpose is not to pull us away from life, but to gently guide us back into it. They serve as reminders that connection can exist alongside absence, and that healing does not mean forgetting. Over time, these experiences can help transform grief from something purely painful into something that also carries depth and understanding. They show us that even in loss, there can be moments of quiet support, moments that encourage us to continue, to grow, and to carry forward the love that still surrounds our lives in unseen ways. The purpose of these experiences is not to keep us tied to the past, but to help us find a way to live fully again. Grief can make us feel as though moving forward is a betrayal, as though continuing with life means leaving the person behind. Yet love does not ask us to stop living. Love asks us to carry what was shared into everything that comes next. Healing is not about forgetting, it is about integrating. It is about allowing the relationship to change form so that it can remain part of us without preventing us from growing. When someone dies, the outward expression of the relationship ends, but the inward connection begins to deepen in a new way. We no longer interact through conversation or shared routines, but through memory, influence, and the values that were passed to us. The patience they showed, the lessons they taught, the way they cared for others, all of these become threads woven into our own character. We begin to express their presence not by looking backward constantly, but by living differently because they once lived. This transformation does not happen suddenly. At first, it may feel as though the only connection left is pain. But slowly, the sharpness of grief can soften into something quieter. We may catch ourselves acting in ways they would have appreciated, repeating their advice, or finding strength in situations where we once would have depended on them. These moments are not signs that we are replacing them or moving on from them. They are signs that the bond has become part of who we are. It is natural to want to hold on tightly, especially when we fear losing even the memory of the person. But healing does not require us to cling. In fact, allowing the relationship to evolve is what keeps it alive within us. When we live with openness, when we allow ourselves to laugh again, to care for others, to pursue meaning and purpose, we are not abandoning what we had. We are continuing it in a different form. There is also an important balance to find. We do not need to search constantly for reminders or signs in order to maintain connection. Love does not require proof. It is already present in the way we think, the choices we make, and the compassion we extend to others. The more we trust that this connection endures, the less we feel the need to grasp for it. Grief, then, becomes not a wall that separates us from life, but a passage that leads us into a deeper understanding of it. Through loss, we learn how profoundly we are shaped by one another. We come to see that relationships are not limited by time or physical presence, but continue through influence and remembrance. In this way, the one we lost is not carried somewhere far away. They are carried in our actions, our values, and our way of being in the world. And by living fully, by allowing ourselves to grow, to love, and to continue, we honor them in the most meaningful way possible.